Hey, come here. You like pro wrestling? We got a little something for you. 2 fans, 3,000 miles away. We each been watching for more than 30 years. Celebrate the art form, the action, the homoeroticism. We ain't rating matches. We ain't analyzing stories. We ain't experts. We just sit down, shut up, and mark out!
Hello, everybody. This is Blade Daily coming at you with another edition, yet again, of Sit Down, Shut Up, Mark Out, episode 41. And I'm rejoined by my co-host, my ace, my Joshi G, the best Canadian pro wrestling podcaster in the history of pro wrestling podcasts. The best there is, the best was, the best there ever will be. I no longer say this in a set order. I just say it, but I make sure I say it all. Joshi, how are you?
Hello. I'm doing okay. It's been an up and down week.
Yeah.
You know? Some personal things, but also yesterday was a very difficult day for me.
Was it?
Yeah.
Why don't we talk about it?
Well, I didn't appreciate what Mercedes Moné did to my best friend, Muppet Moné. Yeah, I thought that was extremely uncalled for.
Do you want to tell the people what she did, just so, in case they didn't see?
Well,
I know it's hard to talk about.
It's very hard to talk about. I'm still pretty traumatized by the whole ordeal. But basically, Mercedes Moné took a picture of her adorable dog.
Mm-hmm.
It's a corgi. Very nice dogs.
Yeah.
You know? And it seemed like he was chewing Muppet Moné.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, that's a puppet violation.
It is.
Fortunately, it was brought to my attention that when you take a very close look at the dog's face,
yeah,
his mouth isn't open. He's not chewing on Muppet Moné. The bottom part is actually Muppet Moné's sunglasses.
Right. It looks like he's resting his head actually on the Muppet's head.
So I don't think
you said
died.
Someone told you about it, and I think that someone was your husband, Joshi
G. Yes, he did a terrific job last week. So
yes, someone was a great fill-in host for you last week. My
husband Joshi G did an excellent job.
He did.
He'll be back for sure. But yes, he did comfort me.
He did. Okay,
yes,
so
he assured me that Muppet Moné is alive and well. And you know what, Blade? This morning he sent me a photo of Harley, Cameron, and Muppet Moné. And Muppet Moné looked so happy in that photo. And I was overcome with happiness.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I know.
We hang out quite a bit.
You and Muppet Moné?
Yeah. We drink mimosas together.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
She asked me to make her some lobster, so I did. You know, lobster's not cheap, by the way. You know, it's very expensive stuff. But I did this for her because she understands me, I understand her, and we're always going to be best friends, you know?
Wow. Joshi, I just want you to know that there's people who care about you, and we care about you a lot. And
thank you. And you also care about Muppet Moné, and I greatly appreciate that.
I do care about her. Harley Cameron, who has told the world that she's a ventriloquist multiple times. I don't know if I didn't believe her or that this would never, ever be a part of the show. But Harley Cameron has created Muppet Moné, who is a Mercedes Moné Muppet puppet. And in fact, Harley Cameron is quite good at throwing her voice. And she did a great job. You couldn't tell she was voicing her very well at all. Mercedes Moné does not like the puppet Muppet. And Joshi loves the puppet Muppet. She changed all of her social media profiles. Her social name now on Blue Sky is Muppet Moné.
Yes.
With the wide-eyed, like smiling, psycho-looking puppet on there.
Don't talk like that about her.
There are people who love you, and that's what you need to know right now, okay?
I know that there are people that care about me. I don't know why you keep telling me this. We're having this discussion about my really good friend. I'm just happy she's not dead. And you're trying to tell me that I need professional help. I mean, you said that Muppet Moné is a puppet. She is actually an extension of Mercedes Moné. Listen, I know that Muppet Moné was born a couple of weeks ago.
The last weekend.
Okay, fine. Last weekend, sure, okay? She hasn't had much of a life yet. And she deserves a very long life. We shouldn't dwell on these questions. Where is she from? What's her purpose in life?
Okay. All right. Okay.
All right, can we get back to the backstage segment already?
Okay. Harley Cameron has Muppet Moné that apparently is carrying the life force of Mercedes Moné inside of her. And if anything should happen to either one of them, the other will die. So,
like, let's say you accidentally or intentionally, puncture her hand or something.
Yeah.
Mercedes' hand, her real hand will also be punctured.
Wow.
Yes.
These are high stakes. This is very high stakes stuff. I'm kind of scared now. I think Harley needs to stop having Muppet Moné be a part of this.
What?
Well, because she needs to be kept in a safe place so Mercedes doesn't get hurt.
As long as Muppet Moné is treated well, Mercedes Moné is safe. So stop giving that poor Muppet to your dog.
Mercedes.
Yes, Mercedes.
Like she's self-harming in a way.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's up with that. I mean, she's the one that clearly needs help, not me, so.
Okay. All right.
Well, did you like the segment or not?
I loved the set. I loved it until now. Now I'm desperately afraid for Mercedes Moné.
Damn it.
Segment was very entertaining until I was just informed of all this. I just hope everybody comes out okay. That's all.
She's under my protection.
Okay.
I'm like her foster mother.
After the podcast, why don't you let me talk to Joshi G? Just
about how much we all love Muppet Moné?
Yep, that's exactly right. Except just he and I.
Well, that's not right. I need to be in all these conversations.
You guys talk every day. You know what I mean?
Listen, anything that you want to say about Muppet Moné, you could say in front of my face, okay? I mean, there's no reason to imply that the poor puppet has psychological problems. I don't know why you're doing that. You're a bully. You're acting like a total bully.
Okay. Okay. You know what?
You know,
we're going to put Muppet Moné to the side right now, and we'll just say
she's
being treated
not
well.
She's not a sideshow. She's not Sideshow Bob.
No, I know. But we're just gonna put her over here, so that we can host a podcast. Okay.
All right, fine. Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
This took up way too much time. Yes.
We have a podcast, right?
Yeah, I know. Well, you know what I was thinking? Maybe we should maybe we should change the name of our podcast.
Oh, to what?
To Sit Down, Shut Up, and Listen to Muppet Moné.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk with Joshi G alone after the show, and that's all. Everything's fine. Everything's fine.
Okay, sorry. So, I Blade. Sorry about that. I don't know. I was actually in the other room for the past 5 minutes, so I apologize for being late to the podcast. Not sure who you were talking to for the past 15 minutes, but I'm here. Joshi G is in the house, everybody. Woo!
What?
What do you mean? What? I wasn't here.
What the fuck are
I
you talking
literally
about?
just
You
got
were,
here.
you were. I was just talking to you. I've been talking to you.
What?
You've been telling me that Muppet Moné is the life force of Mercedes Moné.
Oh, you were talking to somebody else, obviously. That wasn't me.
What? You've been sitting here this whole time.
How do you know? Just because you see my face on Zoom?
Yeah.
Maybe
And your mouth
it was-
moving?
Yeah, well, maybe that was AI generated, dude. I'm here now. I'm here. I have no idea what happened the past 15 minutes. Like, I really wasn't here. So,
But you were listening to
we
me
have-
talk to somebody else.
yeah.
Okay.
I was like telling this person, okay, come
Am
on,
I-
quiet down for a moment here. I have a podcast to do. So,
And you were telling other people to quiet down?
yeah, absolutely.
Were you telling the
I
person that
blame-
was talking to me to quiet down?
Yeah. She's gone now. I don't know what the hell she told you about.
Just some
but
rando was in your home talking to me on Zoom.
I guess so. Yeah. Sorry about that. It happens. I don't know. Something weird's been going on since last Saturday. Not too sure what's going on. Kind of feel at times like I'm not in my own body. It's like I disappear for a little while. So, that kind of thing. But, we have a podcast to do. Let's get serious. I don't know why you spent so much time talking to this other person for 15
Is
minutes.
Joshi J there now?
No, he took the dog for a walk.
Okay. After the show, I was just thinking maybe he and I could have a private conversation.
Oh. Everything okay?
I just miss him. I haven't
okay.
talked to him
Yeah,
since last
sure.
Friday. Okay. all
Sure,
right.
I'll let him know. Absolutely.
All right, yeah. Yeah, just let him
All
know.
right. So, what were we talking about?
Well, we were talking about Collision.
Yeah, great show.
Collision for like 2 weeks now has been a fantastic show. It's been stronger than Dynamite the last 2 weeks
I agree, man.
until this week. And we finally got a Dynamite worthy of the collisions that have been happening. And a lot happened on Collision. A lot happened on Dynamite. It's very much, these shows are very simpatico. One is an extension of the other. Joshi, what are your thoughts?
Collision has been great the past 2 weeks. Actually, yeah, I don't think we got to discuss Collision last week because I wasn't on the show, but I enjoyed it very much. And as for last week's episode, there was a lot to enjoy. Like the women were featured heavily, and that always puts me in a very good mood. It advanced a lot of stories as well. I love the pairing of Cope with Jay White.
Yeah, me too.
It's really nice to see that Jay White is still in the title scene, so to speak.
Yeah,
So-
absolutely. It's weird. It feels kind of like Sting and Darby, except Jay White seems older than Darby.
Yeah, it's true. He does. Is
but-
he actually younger? Or?
I think he's older. I think he's,
Okay,
or
he
they're,
is older.
they might be the exact same age. I don't know. But like, it's another great way for veterans to mentor these younger people in AEW, much the same you saw with Jericho and Sammy, or Sting and Darby, or Christian and Jack Perry. It's all kind of coming together, and I love it. I think Copeland is cool too, because he is kind of what I envision Jay White being, where he can be a babyface or a heel, and he could zip between the two if you needed him to. So that's been really awesome. Yeah, I think Jay White with Cope is a great move. And, it's kind of interesting right now because, like, Jay White he's playing it very cool. Like, he doesn't understand how to be a babyface, and Cope is kind of helping him figure it out. So it's very cool.
And iBlade. We can't forget that Cope challenged Mox
Yes.
for Revolution next month. So,
how'd you feel about that?
at first, I was a little bit confused because I thought the match would take place at Grand Slam.
Mm-hmm.
But then I realized that Grand Slam is not actually a pay-per-view.
Right.
It's just a special edition of AEW. And so I figured, okay, they probably have 2 to 2.5 hours maybe. And so they can't add too many matches. And you want to feature the Australian talent as much as possible because it's in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense to me why they decided that the match would be on the AEW Revolution card. I'm fine with it, actually. It makes perfect sense. And I don't see Cope beating Moxley. I don't think he should be the one to beat him anyways. So
No.
I'm all right with it. What about you?
I think it makes perfect sense, honestly. The more,
Yeah.
At first I was like, I really don't want them to do Cope versus Mox or Revolution. I really, back in January, that's how I was feeling. The way that they progressed the Death Riders story, I've actually been more satisfied with as of late. Because, they did a good job of kind of bringing us back into familiarity with what the Death Riders are about, right? Which is these old big ego guys who want to be on top, who are going to keep the business from moving forward. And Mox doesn't want that. He wants to get them all out of the way, except the whole contradiction is that Moxley thinks they should all be just like him,
Right.
And so, Mox isn't exactly a young guy either. He's going to turn 40, I believe, this year. So you've got Copeland, who is obviously a big name and is known outside of just wrestling. So you have him versus Mox. That's a money match. I don't see any reason to put it on Grand Slam.
Yeah.
You already have a money match. You got Toni Storm and Mariah May, and you got Ospreay and Omega versus Fletcher and Takeshita. I mean,
Agreed.
that's a pretty good showing as it is. And then there's more to it than that. So I think it actually makes a lot of sense. I like that Jay White's involved. I want to see how that evolves. But I love that Jay White's still in the world title picture. And we'll see what happens with Cope. I have some ideas. I'm kind of curious to see what FTR does. I think they need a reboot of some type.
Mm-hmm.
Them turning on Cope and joining the Death Riders would be good for all of them. It would be good for FTR, give them a new vibe. It'd be good for the Death Riders, give them a jolt, and it would be good for Cope, give him something to work with, So, and we'll see how Jay White plays into the whole thing. But honestly, I think, there's a lot of different directions you could go, but that's your big match for Revolution. I think it's a good one.
Well, you know what? Joshi G made a really good point. He doesn't watch Collision as regularly as me. Sorry. So when he saw the Outrunners, he was asking me what their whole gimmick was about, because he said, "Well, they're a lot like FTR with the '80s vibes and all that." And I said, "Yes, but wait, they actually incorporate a lot of cheesy elements into their gimmick from the '80s." And I think that now that they have Outrunners and they're killing it with these ridiculous promos and backstage segments and whatnot, I feel FTR should be heels. They have the whole funny 80s tag team thing going on. And FTR is not funny, really. They're more on the serious side. To be honest, I miss them as heels as well. I think it's time for a change.
Yeah, they're stale right now, and they have been stale. Honestly, as characters, they've been stale for a year, maybe even a little more than a year. So, really since they faced the Bucks at All In, I feel they've been stale. And that was a year and a half ago. So they just haven't really changed very much. They're kind of only there some of the time. It's just, I think FTR needs something new. And we all know they can be great heels. That part they played in Hangman Page's story, where they kind of rolled him in his story with Kenny years ago. was extremely well done, and their heel work was amazing in that.
Was that when they were with MJF? When they were in his faction?
No, I think it was before that.
It was before?
It was right when they first showed up. So
okay.
they showed up in like 2020, and they said, you know, we fucking know Hangman Adam Page, and he's just a little bitch boy, basically. You know, they played him to where he kept the Bucks from winning that tournament. And so they would get the title shot against him and Kenny at All Out. And then they beat them for the tag titles because they played them against each other. And that's when Kenny abandoned Hangman.
Yes.
So, yeah, I think FTR, they're great heels.
They are. It's time for a change.
And really, character-wise, one thing I notice is in every promo, they're like, we kind of agree with you guys. We just, you know, we don't want you beating up Ricky Morton. You know, we kind of agree with what you guys are saying. We just don't think it should be done the way you're doing it. And so they always go out of their way to kind of say, we kind of agree with you. You notice Copeland never does that. Copeland's never like that.
Jay White doesn't either.
I like that he calls Moxley kid because Copeland's 10 years older than him, you know?
Well, that's true.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing, obviously, is huge standout moment from Collision. Toni Storm's promo was unbelievable. The quote that I will pull from it that I have watched on repeat over and over again. You shambolic bitch. It was so good. It was so good. Toni is in a league entirely of her own. Like, she's playing her own game at this point. There's just nothing and no one that's playing in the same league as Toni. Like, she's incredible.
Well, iBlade, fans could go on and on about how this company has the best women's roster, that company has the best women's roster. At the end of the day, they don't have Toni Storm.
Right.
And to me, Toni Storm is the best female, not even just female, she is the best wrestling character in professional wrestling at the moment. There's no one else that touches her. And I mean, I love a lot of wrestlers that are more character based. Let's say Hangman Adam Page. He's an amazing storyteller. Swerve Strickland, obviously. But my goodness, the stuff that Toni Storm is able to pull off, nobody else can do that.
No, there's never been a character like this that is so like meta, you know, and so she's an actress who's playing an actress. Like,
right.
It is working on so many different levels. And between her and Tony Khan and RJ City and Luther and Mariah May and all the people that have contributed to this story, they're all massive MVPs of AEW. Like,
oh yeah.
And Mariah May has just been incredible in this story.
Well, this is why the same creative minds that came up with the story and that have helped it progress, I want to see them involved in other storylines as well, because they are just so talented.
Mm-hmm.
There is no reason why they can't maybe have a bit of creative input when it comes to the Death Rider storyline.
Yeah.
I think that would help.
Yeah. Well, you know, there was, you know, at the beginning, there was this idea that RJ City somehow was involved with the Death Riders thing. And then that, you don't hear that anymore. So I don't know. But, you know, I think anytime you have a big story, especially one that's going to like be promotion wide, you should have some 4 or 5 people kind of involved, I think.
Absolutely.
There are also lots of women on Collision. So we, Joshi G and I had talked last week about, we loved the vignettes and the segments, but there was still only like 5 or 6 women on the show. And on Collision last week, there were so many more. Penelope Ford and Thunder Rosa had a backstage segment. And Penelope Ford called out Thunder Rosa. They're going to fight on Dynamite this week, this coming week. You you had Toni, you had Megan Bain come out and do a bit of a squash match, but looked amazing. Just like a goddess. Like this woman, holy shit. Like she is incredible.
She really is.
You had all that, and I really, really am enjoying it. Harley Cameron, as always. Harley Cameron with Muppet Moné was also on the show and very funny. I loved the triple threat match with Danny Garcia, Kyle O'Reilly, and Lee Moriarty.
It was really good.
Love Lee getting that push into AEW proper programming and being presented as a real threat. This match delivered in huge ways, I thought. It was a lot of fun. And then they did that Mid-South brawl with FTR versus Mox and Yuta, and FTR coming out on top. More big brawling with Jay White and, Copeland and all these other people. Really, really strong show. It just flew by. It just flew by.
Very fun show. We also got the return of our boy Bandido.
We sure did. Yes.
We sure did. So after Jericho and Brian Keats match, they wrestled the Outrunners.
Mm-hmm.
They started to beat down the Outrunners, and Big Bill got involved. And who came out? There was Will Hobbs. He came out. Our boy Bandido.
Yep.
That put me in such a good mood. I was I don't want to say disappointed because it's not his fault. These things happen. I was just bummed that he got in, he suffered a concussion as soon as he came back.
Oh my God.
That really sucked. And
of course it's not his fault, but it was disappointing nonetheless because Bandido is one of my favorite wrestlers, period. And
Same.
he, seeing him come out, it just put a cloud over the rest of that show for me. Cause you're like, what the hell's going to happen with Bandido now? And then he comes back. He's going to be feuding with Chris Jericho. The only thing is I'm like, he can't lose to Chris Jericho. He just kind of can't. And
no.
That's a huge mistake if he does. It was one thing a couple years back when they fought and had a fantastic match. I have no idea, or I have no doubt Bandido can drag something very good out of Chris Jericho because Bandido himself can do so much. But he looked great coming out here. He did the one-arm press slam to Brian Keith and put him through a table, and it looked like Brian went through it forehead first. It didn't look comfy. But Bandido looked great. Bandido with the Outrunners was pretty cool. I see a ton of potential here. Tons. But Bandido's back. That makes me really happy. Let's move on to Dynamite this week, which honestly, Joshi, this was the best Dynamite of the Max era. And one of my favorite Dynamites, I think. Like,
oh my God.
Start to stop. It was just fucking awesome. Like, I rewatched it last night and my intention was to just turn it on and fall asleep to it. Because if I'm watching wrestling I've already seen before, I can fall asleep so easily. And it's not because I'm not enjoying myself. It's because it's comforting, right? And so I turned it on last night in bed on an iPad. It's not on a big TV. There's not all this brightness beaming into my eyes. And I ended up watching the entire show because it just goes so fast. I couldn't believe how it just breezed by. It was insane. Really, really great episode. Starts with Renee Paquette interviewing Jay White outside. Jay White said, it's good that we're so close to the airport. That was the worst Kiwi accent I've ever attempted in my life. I'm not good at them, but that was especially bad. Sorry, Jay White. Sorry, Kiwis. But he's talking about how that him and Cope and FTR and stuff have each other's backs, but the Death Riders always have the numbers, and the camera pans around. You see that Death Riders are waiting for him. But then Copeland and FTR come from behind, and Jay White and, Death Riders don't seem to notice. And Jay goes, "Hey, works for me." They're moving Jay into this main player position now that I see getting more solid every week, and I'm really enjoying this. And one of the funniest things was that Marina Shafir comes in and throws Renee Paquette over her shoulder and just walks off with her. We were joking in a group chat. I think she put Renee in the briefcase.
In the briefcase?
Yeah, that's what's in the briefcase.
She'd have to chop her up first.
Yeah. But that was super cool. They got into a huge brawl inside the arena. Atlanta was white hot this entire show. Fantastic opening, super chaotic, also funny. There was a lot of humor in this episode that I thought was really, really well done. Really, really well done. What are your thoughts, Joshi?
I thought it was a terrific show. Mm-hmm. There wasn't a dull moment, and the moments that you thought would be dull ended up being good.
Yeah.
Which is awesome, because that doesn't always happen.
No.
I had no problems with the show. I loved the brawl at the very beginning. I love that Marina took Renee Paquette away. I thought that was hilarious. There were just so many great promos, segments. That's one thing that I actually miss about the earlier days of AEW. We used to get a lot more comedic relief.
Mm-hmm.
And then it became more serious, and it's okay to have these segments that just make you laugh. It's what makes wrestling fun,
I completely agree.
That was a relief, in my opinion. I laughed so much during Dynamite. It
really felt like kind of when CM Punk showed up, the AEW became less fun, like less funny. It just was very serious, and it hadn't always been that way. There was there was a lot of seriousness, but there was also like a lot of comedic relief. And that's what I love about AEW so much. And they do it better than anyone. And they really haven't done much of it. And they're starting to now. And I really enjoy that. We had Will Ospreay starting against a member of the Callis family, who turned out to be Mark Davis. Okay. I have no problem with Mark Davis being in the Callis family. Okay. Just to start off that way. But this didn't make any sense because he already came back as a babyface and has fought the Callis family since he's been back. Okay. Mm-hmm. And Don then goes on commentary to try and explain how this is possible, right? That when Davis was in the hospital, he gave Kyle power of attorney. And so Don had contractual hold over Davis, and you either sit at home or you do what I tell you. Well, why didn't you tell him to stop fighting you guys like 2 months ago?
Right.
It's wrestling logic. I don't really care that much. It's fine. But, and what does Mark Davis really have otherwise? Nothing. And it's not because of him. It's just, where does he fit in the grand scheme of things? Kyle Fletcher's ascendant. He is going to be the world champion someday. I don't know what's in store for Mark Davis. This way, you can still do Aussie Open matches when you want to, and still have Fletcher working on his solo thing and build up Mark Davis for his solo thing, because as this match showed, he's very good. Him and Ospreay had a fantastic match. Ospreay gets the win, as you would imagine. Callis looked pretty frustrated. Callis has really stepped up his game, I think. He seems a lot more focused. Mm-hmm. What were your thoughts, Joshi?
I didn't expect it to be Mark Davis. When he came out, I told myself, oh, maybe I should have seen that coming. But at the same time, I don't know. I mean, they never hinted at Mark Davis turning on Ospreay or anything like that. So it just came out of nowhere. And he lost the match, which is fine, but I'm not too sure how they're going to use him. He already lost. he's a heel all of a sudden. So I guess it's one of those things we'll just have to wait and see. Like you said, Kyle Fletcher, now he's a singles wrestler. He's going to be a world he's going to win the world title at some point. So I consider him a singles wrestler now, and that doesn't mean that they can't team up, but I honestly don't know. I don't know what's to come. It was a bit weird, but nonetheless, it was a good match.
It was a good match. It was slightly anticlimactic, I would say, but it wasn't like terrible or anything. It just was kind of like, oh, okay. Some people wanted it to be like Ibushi or something, and I'm like, they're not going to do that on Dynamite.
No.
I'm not convinced this is the end of the new people in the Callis family either. I think that there could be more. We go from that. The Hurt Syndicate comes out, and basically say, hey, private party, give it up for these guys. They were young. They were hungry. They just were the wrong people at the wrong time. It kind of felt in a way like they were kind of writing private party off for now. Which
it did seem that way.
Kind of a bummer, to be honest, because that does make their title reign feel pretty insignificant. However, as they're, MVP's talking, the lights go out. We hear Burnin' Daylight, which we haven't heard in a long time. Best entrance theme in pro wrestling.
Yes.
And the Guns come out, and the crowd went apeshit for the Guns. They're baby faces. They got hella jacked while they were gone.
Yeah.
Colton looked gigantic. They didn't look out of place in the ring with Shelton and Bobby, which I think a lot of times is kind of like, it's hard not to. They're just so much bigger than everyone. But these guys looked like they belonged in that ring. They cut a good promo saying, hey, we have been trying for 2 years to get our televised rematch for those tag titles. And what do you say we do it with you guys? And so next week, it's going to happen. It's going to be the Guns versus Hurt Syndicate. And at the very end of the promo, MVP goes, next week it's going to be the Hurt Syndicate against some ass boys. And the Guns said, you know what? We are ass boys, basically. They leaned into it. The crowd goes nuts. Maybe Billy Gunn and them are going to make up now that Billy's no longer with the Acclaimed. We'll see.
Putting the Gun Club with Jay White and Juice Robinson was a blessing for these guys.
Oh, yeah.
Did absolute wonders for them.
Yes.
You put anyone with Jay White, and somehow they become so entertaining and even better in the ring. I don't know what it is about Jay's influence, but it
cool
works.
As fuck.
Yeah.
Jay White is part pirate and part cat. Okay, so he's part like Captain Jack Sparrow and part cat. He is the best parts of both of those things. Jay White just rules. And then you have the charisma of Juice Robinson too. Backstage, Renee is talking with Hangman Adam Page. I love this guy so much.
Me too.
She says, last week it looked like you were looking for Swerve. And he goes, well, that's, never mind that. That was a moment of weakness. And then she goes, yeah, well, what about Christopher Daniels? It felt like, when he told you that he had to retire, you felt bad. He's like, no. Chris, it's like clearly he's like coming down from his like rage panic that he was going through for the last year. But he doesn't want to admit it, or he's like, he doesn't want to, he's not just going to turn babyface overnight. You know what I mean? But the truth is Hangman is a babyface. At his core, Hangman is a babyface. And I think he's going to be a much cooler babyface when he finally makes that full turn. But Max Caster, as only Max Caster knows how to do, is sitting on a couch watching Hangman give the promo. And he's like, come on. I've been waiting all this time. And Hangman's like, what the hell is this? And he's like, come on, I've just been waiting so long, and Hanger, I love what you did to Christopher Daniels. I thought that was so great. Do you think you could do that to Anthony Bowens? Or what if you did that to Billy Gunn? That'd be so cool. And I love Caster in this. He is very good at what he's doing. I love this whole, I love how they're building up this character. And so Hangman goes, well, it's funny because I would love to put somebody in the hospital, but I don't see Bowens and Billy Gunn isn't here, but you are. And I love Caster. He's like, okay, Renee, I need to actually go out to my car. I'll talk to you guys later. And Hangman's like, oh, I'll walk you to your car. I'll follow you out there.
Oh, yeah, and then he just follows him.
Yeah, and it just follows him.
Which is hilarious.
It's very hard to tell what happened in this promo. You kind of got to see it, but it was good. It was very, very amusing, very funny stuff. One of the first funny things Hangman has done in a while, so that was also great. We got an awesome match with the Hounds of Hell and Takeshita and Kyle Fletcher. Joshi, why don't you talk about this one?
Man, it was a really good match. It seemed to me like Brody King and Buddy Matthews are in a very good place. They just seem so happy there, and they kept looking at the crowd and getting very excited. It's pretty insane to me that now that Malachi Black is gone, they seem to be used better. So it makes you question a couple of things, But yeah, the match itself was awesome. I wasn't surprised at all that Brody King got pinned. Mind you, it took two people, right? It was Takeshita and Fletcher. And
a shitload of huge moves, too.
And a shitload of huge moves, because they couldn't have pinned Buddy Matthews because he has a match with Okada at Grand Slam. So that wouldn't have made sense. Yep. You can't pin Takeshita. He also has a match next week. You can't pin Fletcher. So I said, oh yeah, Brody King is definitely going to take the loss, but that's okay. He still looked extremely strong. That wasn't easy for them to do. As you said, it was big move after big move. They had to team up and take him down. Brody's a huge guy.
Assisted brainbuster on him.
Exactly.
Looked just brutal.
Yes.
And they finally put him down. But no shame in the loss for Hounds of Hell. I don't want to see them lose a lot because I think they could be such a valuable addition to the tag teams. But fantastic match. Takeshi and Kyle Fletcher don't have bad matches. These guys don't have bad matches.
No.
To add on to what you were saying, Joshi, it's not just their booking that's better. They just seem like they're way more into what they're doing than they did in the House of Black. Like, Buddy seems like alive. Brody seems so much more alive. It's so awesome to see people of this quality doing great work and being able to do stuff that measures up to their potential, So yeah, awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. Every time I write out these formats, I try not to talk about every single thing that happens, but this show is just damn good. We go back to Samoa Joe and Hook are backstage, and they're back to this Pulp Fiction-y kind of stuff. And Joe's like, I got to find Christian, man. Nobody who puts steel to my head gets away with it. And Hook says, hey, man, what'd you say to me? If you're furious, you can't be focused. And Joe goes, what did I tell you about using my own stuff against me? And
I love those two together.
Yeah. And so, and then Joe was like, who's this guy? The camera guy. He's like, who's this guy? Where's Speak and Spell? And Hook's like, he's in Japan, man. So anyway, they barge into Christian Cage's locker room, and only Nick Wayne and Kip Sabian are in there. And Joe's like, oh, man. Oh, Joe goes right up to Nick Wayne. He goes, where's your daddy? And they're like, he isn't here right now. And they're like, oh, okay, well, we should leave and come back when he is here. Or we could leave a message. And they get into a fight with Sabian and Nick Wayne. They're beating the shit out of him. And then Christian and Mother Wayne pop their heads in, see what's happening, and run away.
Yeah, they decide to hide. And then when Joe and Hook are done, they leave. And you see Christian Cage and Mother Wayne hiding. And then they go to the locker room, and Christian Cage asks Hook and sorry, not Hook. Christian Cage asks Nick Wayne and Kip Sabian, what the hell just happened here?
Guys, what the hell just happened?
That was so funny.
He's the
Christian
best.
Cage is a gem. Oh my god.
He's the best. He's the best.
He's so funny. I
He's such
can't.
a great, pathetic shitbag. Like, he's amazing. Like, this man is unrivaled. He's one of the greatest heels I've ever seen in my life. Like, he's so good at it. He's so good at it. Another great heel who I think is getting rehabbed right now is MJF.
Yeah.
And MJF comes out to cut a promo. And as he starts cutting his promo, he's about to start talking about Jeff Jarrett. And Max Caster is running down to the ring. And MJF's like, get the hell out of here, man. This is my time. What the hell are you doing here? And Caster just keeps going, Hangman! Hangman! And MJF's like, get the fuck out of here. What the fuck, man? This is bullshit. And then he turns around and Hangman's music hits. The crowd rises because Hangman's that kind of guy. You just rise when that music starts. And Hangman just walks very fast down to the ring, comes face to face with MJF again. Okay? This match is happening at some point. We all want it to happen. Okay? And
Of course, yeah.
they are teasing us in the coolest, smartest way possible. They haven't even mentioned that these guys might be fighting. Then Hangman just steps aside MJF and chases Max Caster through the crowd.
Poor Caster.
He's going to get murdered on Saturday. He's going to get
man.
murdered. Oh, my God.
Hangman's gonna kill you.
Yeah. And I like that MJF was like, so while you guys watch that talentless hack run away from me. Talking about Hanger.
Yeah, talentless hack. Please.
He tries to go in on Jeff Jarrett again. And right as he starts talking, Dustin Rhodes' music hits. Dustin comes down to ringside. Dustin's fired up. And I would say maybe 5% too much. But he was still very good. He cuts a promo on Max. He's like, I'm the last of my kind. Stop talking about people's significant others. Stop talking about people's drug problems. Stop talking about
Owen Hart.
Keep Owen Hart's name out of your mouth, or I'm gonna beat the shit out of you. And then he goes, because I'm better than you, and your bitch ass knows it.
Yes.
And it was a very good promo. I would say again, when Dustin calls him boy, it kind of hits me a little weird, but
I find it funny.
It was fine. It was fine.
Yeah,
but
I like Dustin though.
I do too. I'm a Dustin Rhodes fan.
I don't know
big
sometimes,
time.
but
you shut it. Shut it, lady.
Well, can I ask you a question?
You can.
Do you agree that Dustin Rhodes is superior to Jeff Jarrett?
Yes.
Thank you.
I mean, that is such a easy yes. I mean,
I don't know, man. Some fans would probably say Jeff is better.
Look, I don't even hate Jeff Jarrett. Okay, he just didn't belong where he was. That's it. Like, Jeff's okay, but it's like Dustin can actually go, like still go, and
he's a much better talker.
He's a better talker. He's not corny like Jeff. Jeff's corny.
No.
You know, Jeff's a Memphis corny cornball. That's who he is.
Yeah, exactly.
It's why I never liked it when he was on top in TNA or WCW or, he's just not a top guy, really. That's not where he's supposed to be.
He's a mid-carder.
Yeah,
that's
and
it.
Dustin is too, and that's where he belongs. So he gets in MJF's face, and he is shitting all over him. He says, I've been in this business for so long. And MJF looks kind of scared. And then he goes, it's funny. You spent 37 years just trying to get out of the shadow of your daddy, didn't you? Dustin gets super pissed, okay? So MJF's showing he's not scared, and he's not going to back off anything. And then he goes, and you spend 37 years getting out of the shadow of your daddy, only to live in the shadow of your widow baby brother. And Dustin punches him, okay? I thought this was great. That was such a good line, okay? Because Dustin's never been a world champion, all right? And he's never probably going to be a world champion. He better not be the AEW champion at any point.
No.
But, you know, he puts the beat down on Max. The security guards separate them. Dustin breaks free and jumps on Max again. They cart Max out. Max breaks free, runs in, and just kicks Dustin in the balls. Dustin falls down. Max stands tall. Next week in Austin, Texas at Dynamite, Dustin Rhodes versus MJF. I like this a lot.
Well, see, this is the Max that I want to see.
Yes.
Super smart.
Yep.
Doesn't resort to stupid insults, you know.
Misogyny.
There
was no misogyny.
There was no misogyny. What he did on Wednesday was perfect. Dustin's response was perfect. No offense to Cody Rhodes, but I actually prefer Dustin Rhodes because
I always have.
He kills it when it comes to every freaking gimmick that he's had. I mean, Gold Dust. When he was with yes, well, not so much Seven, but when he was with Luna Vachon.
Right.
He's just, you know, I've always found the guy underrated, so it was really
Dustin
nice
is criminally underrated.
Yeah.
And he was a huge part of WCW in the pre-Hogan era of WCW. And that's honestly, I prefer that version of WCW, even like Surfer Sting and all that stuff. I liked WCW when it was Ron Simmons and Vader and Sting and the Steiners. And that's my favorite era of WCW with Flair also.
Those were good times. Yeah.
Luger,
absolutely.
you know, that was great shit. And Dustin was a huge part of it. You know, his feud with Barry Windham, his tag team with Ricky Steamboat. Like, they did a lot of cool shit with Dustin when he was really young. And man, he was, you know, his nickname was The Natural. Well, they call him The Natural. But he really was. He really was a natural. And so I'm happy, you know, I'm still, I get excited when Dustin's on TV. I still enjoy it.
I do too.
Then Mariah May comes out. And she's coming out to call the match, which I was very excited for, which is Toni Storm versus Queen Aminata. And Queen Aminata comes out looking Aminata-ish, if I don't say so myself. And she's got this blonde thing going with her hair right now. It's looking...
Suits her, yeah.
Damn good. And then Justin Roberts makes a very special announcement. Playing the part of Mariah May, Timeless Toni Storm. And Toni does what Mariah had been doing the whole time.
Perfectly.
Comes out in Mariah's gear with terrible looking extensions that are so fake looking. You can totally tell where her like bob, like, because her hair is like white blonde, you know, it's like bleach, super peroxided blonde. And the blonde extensions look ridiculous by comparison, you know?
Oh, it was hilarious. And
yeah, it looked like shit. And that was the point.
And Toni has a much bigger butt. So
yeah, there was some cake happening in this match.
She has a much bigger butt. You could tell. It's like, yeah, that's Toni Storm.
Oh, for sure. Oh yeah, no, but like it featured her butt in a way that I had no problems with.
Yeah, of course,
she has a big, beautiful butt. And
yes, absolutely.
She comes down to the ring. Mariah is beside herself. She is completely thrown off. This was so good. Mariah was so great. She said, you know, I hate to think how much that costume had to be altered, you know, like Tony's like fat or something.
What
or
a
like,
jerk.
You know, yeah, what a dick move.
Toni has a beautiful body.
Tony Schiavone, don't you think there's a few things missing? And she's like cupping her boobs, you know, and Tony's like, yeah.
Poor Toni, putting him in that kind of situation.
The match goes on. My only complaint about any of this, and Toni was so good as Mariah May. Got all the mannerisms, was completely ridiculous in her mockery of Mariah. My only complaint at all was just that Queen Aminata was kind of the third wheel in this whole thing. And she gets beat with Mariah's finisher instead of Toni's, which Queen Aminata, she deserves a little better than that, in my opinion. This could have been somebody else, I guess, is what I'm saying. However, it was a very good match. And then Toni takes the mic and she's like, this women's division is nothing compared to me. She says all the stuff Mariah's been saying. Mariah gets up like she's going to get in the ring. And Toni, dressed as Mariah, puts her arms out like, can I put my head on your bosom?
Mm-hmm. Like Mariah used to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Mariah's had enough. And she gets down off the mat and storms off and says, I'm Mariah. And Toni is definitely in Mariah's head for real now. This is good shit. Joshi, tell the people.
I loved everything about it. Toni Storm is always entertaining. Probably my favorite part of the show.
Yeah.
And I loved Mariah's response to it, freaking out like that, getting so angry. Mariah deserves this. What she did to Toni Storm last year was unacceptable. And Toni's playing mind games with her, and it's freaking great. I like that Toni's getting the upper hand here. Absolutely fabulous. And as for the match itself, I agree with you. Very good match. I like that Amanada kept doing the timeless Toni poses. But I'm with you, man. Like, I really want Queen Amanada to be featured more regularly. I want her to pick up some important wins. So hopefully that will be the case. And honestly, I found it very telling that although Toni Storm was in the match, and of course they cheered for Toni, there were also Amanada chants. The fans like her a lot. So that's someone you have to keep on TV.
She's like Bandido in that same way of like, she's not being presented like a superstar yet, but
right.
You're gonna have to, because the crowd has an organic relationship with her. Just like they do with Bandido. He got Bandido chants on Dynamite during the Jericho segment.
The New York minute that never lasts a minute.
Yeah, well, we didn't even talk about that. That was earlier in the show, but that was an awesome part of the show. They're doing the New York minute thing. They announced that there's $100,000 bounty on Bandido, and Jericho goes, well, I happen to know a bounty hunter, and it's Brian Keith, and he's going to fight Bandido on Collision. And then Big Bill starts talking a bunch of shit about Hobbs, and Hobbs comes out. They all start beating on Hobbs. The Outrunners come out. They start beating, they occupy Jericho and Brian Keith, and Hobbs and Big Bill start fighting with each other. It's awesome. They both choke slam a security guy super hard on the floor. Jesus. And then they fight over the top of the announce table. And that was awesome. I love that feud. I'm really, really, really excited about Big Bill and Hobbs just continuing to go at it.
Me too.
I love me a meat feud. And then finally, the last match, it was easy to forget that this was the main event, not because of the people involved, but because how good the show was. Fucking Jesus Christ.
Swerve Strickland versus Ricochet.
Face to face, finally. What a great match. 15 minutes about.
Mm-hmm.
Ricochet attacks Swerve at the very beginning with a chair while he's making his entrance. He makes his entrance in Jimmy Rave's robe, the embassy robe. Nana's being very protective of the robe the entire match. Swerve hasn't worn the robe in a very long time. So, you know, it's kind of like almost foreshadowing something. But they have a fantastic match. At one point, they're battling outside. They're both standing on top of the barricade. And Ricochet tries to Hurricane Rana Swerve off the barricade, and Swerve power bombs Ricochet back first onto the barricade. It was insane. It was like the craziest bump. Joshi, what were your thoughts?
That was so freaking awesome. I love that bump. I loved everything about that match. They're both such fantastic wrestlers. I wasn't surprised that Ricochet won. I actually thought the ending was very interesting. So when he essentially kneed him in the midsection, the private area, let's say.
Swerve was going for the stomp, and Ricochet put up his hands to defend his face.
Oh, was it his hands?
And his hands kind of punched Swerve in the manhood.
Yeah, the manhood area. I thought that was actually a really cool way of winning a match because he didn't, like, you can't say, oh, he deliberately did that.
Right.
And he should have been disqualified. He was trying to protect his face, right?
He was doing, it was a natural reaction and it just worked out in his favor.
Yeah, I thought that was really clever, actually.
It was.
We don't see that often.
No.
And of course, I just love what Ricochet is doing right now. He's never been this good. He's on another level in AEW. I'm so happy for him. Always been a fan of his since his Lucha Underground and New Japan days. So I'm stoked, man. Like, I imagine we'll get a rematch down the line on a pay-per-view, hopefully. So yeah, Swerve lost, but I'm okay with that. That's the way it had to go down. Yeah,
he's a former AEW champion that Ricochet just beat, and this is not over. Not by a long shot. So, and at the end, Ricochet steals the robe from Nana and wears it back.
Such a meanie.
Yeah.
How could he?
Kind of a meathead.
Yeah.
Josh, what I would like to do right now is listen to some music. What about you?
Listen to some music? What kind of music?
The music that comes in between the segments.
Oh, that kind. Okay.
And there was some music. It was nice, right? It was nice.
I don't know. I thought you meant we were, I don't know, going to listen to Gun Club's entrance theme or something. But hey,
well,
this works too.
That's licensed music. I can't. So we have Grand Slam coming up. We have a killer Dynamite coming up on Wednesday that we talked a little bit about. But Grand Slam in Australia is happening next Saturday. And very cool card. Joshi, why don't you tell the people about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So far, it's looking really great. We've got Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay versus Takeshita and Kyle Fletcher. This should be an excellent match. Looking forward to it. We've got Jon Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli versus Jay White and Cope in a Brisbane Ball, no DQ. We then have Buddy Matthews versus Kazuchika Okada, bitch, for the Continental Championship. We have Timeless Toni Storm versus Mariah May for the Women's World Championship, which better main event the show. And I'm pretty sure we're going to get Mercedes Moné versus Harley Cameron.
Yep. I think that will be the match that rounds the show out. Awesome card. I think this is going to be a great show, and I think there will be more filmed there than just these 5 matches or whatever.
Yeah.
Because that's just typically how AEW does stuff. So, they were paid by Brisbane to come to Brisbane. So that's what they did. And that's why they're not in Melbourne or some other, larger metropolitan area. But I think it's going to be a fantastic show. Now, Swerve Strickland headlined against Ricochet at Dynamite this week. But Joshi, did you know? I think you did, because this was your idea. Actually, it's Joshi G's idea. It's Black History Month, folks. And as 2 white people, we owe a lot. We owe a lot to black athletes in pro wrestling. Some of the greatest competitors in the history of pro wrestling are black. And we want to do a little spotlight on a notable black wrestler each episode this month and maybe beyond. Who knows? So this week, the first person both of us said, because he's just too good, Swerve Strickland.
Whose house?
Swerve's house, baby.
Swerve. Yes, sorry.
He's not an old guy. He's like 35 years old.
Yeah.
Okay. He's been wrestling. He came up through like CZW, a lot of indies. I saw him in Defy is the first time I ever saw him. I didn't realize he was Killshot till much later. He is a guy who I think is maybe one of the most adaptable people I've ever seen in wrestling. He is so smart about gauging what works for his character and what doesn't. But one thing I think Swerve has over just about anyone is his ability to do something unexpected. He always knows how to make everything he's involved in stand out. Okay, so he got like trucked by Bobby Lashley at Full Gear, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he got his ass beat bad by Bobby Lashley. He still looked great in the match. He knew how to look great and like kind of get killed at the same time. And his matches with Hangman, he understands his character in such a fluid way that most people just don't in wrestling. Swerve gets it. The match with Ricochet, he did a leapfrog. He was going to leapfrog Ricochet in this match, and Ricochet drop kicked him in the middle of a leapfrog. I mean,
my God,
everything this guy does is just a little different. Every movement he has is just a little different. It's crazy. And I just think Swerve Strickland, you got to get this belt back on him at some point in the nearest future, because of all of the AEW champions, I would say his reign is my second favorite, and he was only champion for like 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
Kenny Omega's my favorite, and I would say Swerve's my second favorite.
First off, I would like to thank WWE for releasing Swerve Strickland.
Yes, me too. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. I don't normally talk about WWE, but in this case, this was a huge get for AEW. And just looking at his career in AEW so far, he first came in pretty much with Keith Lee, was put in a tag team with him, was on a losing streak for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
He had his own faction. He started this feud with Hangman Adam Page, where he was the heel and Hangman was the babyface. And when they had that freaking match at, was it Full Gear, I believe?
That's when they had the Texas Death Match.
The Texas Death Match. He got so over with that crowd.
Yeah.
And then he became a babyface eventually. Mm-hmm. And when you look at 2024, that was Swerve's year.
It was.
You know,
it was Swerve and Toni Storm, baby.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The fans kept responding really well to him. The chants got louder and louder. The whose house? Swerve's house chants. He eventually became the world champion. He beat Will Ospreay at Forbidden Door. It's just, and even now that he's not champion, people still talk about his title reign because it was so memorable. It was so significant. And what he's doing right now with Ricochet is so significant. And we're going to remember for years to come. That's what's so special about Swerve Strickland. You could put him in any kind of feud. It doesn't matter who his opponent is, who he's feuding with. Somehow, his opponents become more interesting and they somehow get better. Kind of like Jay White in a way. But even more so with Swerve because he's in these more prominent storylines, I'd say. It's just amazing to me how much he has managed to do in such a short period of time in AEW. He's a very unique wrestler. He hits very hard, but he's also extremely agile. He's very athletic. He can do the high-flying stuff as good as anybody else.
Yeah.
He has one of my favorite gimmicks in professional wrestling. I love him with Prince Nana.
Mm-hmm.
He's he's an extremely good-looking guy. He's just talented in so many ways, and we're really lucky to have Swerve in AEW. And I've got to say, iBlade, one of the things that I admire so much about Swerve is that when WWE tried to get him back while he was under contract, he actually told Tony Khan.
Yeah.
And he is an AEW guy.
Yep.
He always praises AEW. He's always going out there doing media outreach and whatnot. This is the kind of person that you want to represent your company. So I just, I have nothing but great stuff to say about him. He's one of my favorite wrestlers in the world, close to Kenny Omega. Very, very close, actually.
Yeah.
When Omega wasn't there last year, Swerve was my favorite.
They're lucky
honestly.
they had Swerve. Yeah.
Yeah. He, luckily, I felt like he really filled that void for me for a while. So
when they did War Games, or not War Games, when they did Blood and Guts last year, remember when like the Elite were all like stapling him and shit? And,
oh my God, that was so.
And they like stapled him, and like they
cool.
all thought they were like killing him, and then he like started laughing and like stood up.
Maniac.
And Danielson hits him with the Buzaiku knee, and he just like brushes it off.
Yes.
At All In. Like last year was the year that Swerve became a top star in the industry, and it's a lasting thing. It's not like, okay, I don't want to shit on him too much, okay? But like Cody Rhodes has a gimmick that it really worked in WWE, okay? But I think it has a shelf life no matter where it is. And Swerve's doesn't have a shelf life because Swerve is smart enough to continue to evolve who he is. I love what he said to Ricochet. He said, "You came in here and you lied to these people. You acted like you were some superhero to these people, and they saw right through you. I know I'm the villain, and all I get is respect for it." It's like, dude, he gets it. He just gets it. And I couldn't be happier for Swerve. The way he's transformed his body. This dude is humongous now. And,
oh my God, yeah.
Rewatching that match with him and Ricochet, like this dude just looks like a main event wrestler, period.
Mm-hmm.
He deserves to be world champion again. And I think aside from, like him and Ospreay and Kenny and Hangman probably get the biggest pops of anyone. And Swerve, if his momentum was going to die down, it would have by now. And it just hasn't.
It won't. And to your point, what makes Swerve so great is that he is so self-aware, and he will say, I've done some pretty awful things. I am not a good person. Right. I can be dangerous. And to me, I find those kind of baby faces more interesting.
Absolutely.
Instead of just sucking up to the crowd all the time and acting like this innocent person that can't ever do anything wrong. I've never been a fan of that kind of babyface. I like babyfaces with areas of gray and layers. Mm-hmm. And that I think that's why Swerve is so well liked. The audience responds well to that. The AEW audience, I feel, they're not as into the typical babyface. Right. Like, sure, the Outrunners, they have their thing going on, but it's funny. It's not meant to be taken seriously.
Also, it's kind of like Orange Cassidy, where it's like a gimmick that is self-aware that it is a wrestling gimmick. Like,
exactly.
It's just very interesting. So I think, you have Swerve, who is like the anti-hero, and he will do whatever's necessary. He can be heartless when he needs to be, if you're in his way. But by and large, that Swerve tries to do the right things, and Swerve is a man that you can respect. And I think that that's what it comes right down to. It's a man you can respect, very similar to Stone Cold. Is like,
yeah,
he doesn't really act like a babyface, but we all just think he's fucking great anyway, and we all respect him. And I would just say that I don't know which is my favorite story. There's 3 stories that could be my favorite story in AEW history. It's either Hangman and Kenny, Toni and Mariah, or Swerve and Hangman.
Oh my God, those are the best.
They're 3 best. I don't think anyone is even particularly close outside of that.
No.
And it might be Swerve and Hangman. It actually might be, because
their story's not over.
It's not over. It could go on forever.
Yeah.
And they have brought something out of each other that is so, it didn't just give them a feud to be in, it changed who they were. And
Even when Ricochet said since Hangman ripped that grill out of your mouth, I haven't been afraid of you even once. Like, you can see Ricochet touched a nerve. Like, Strickland felt humiliated by that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's still so much more to come with that. But the reason I think that is the one that stands out the most to me is because in Hangman and Swerve, you have the two best storytellers in AEW. And Kenny Omega would be a close right behind, or maybe right on the same level, but like AEW is so much better at telling stories too than they were when Kenny and Hangman were going at it. And there isn't a pandemic intervening in the middle of all of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say with Swerve and Hangman, they know how to do character development. They know how to tell stories. And look at both of them right now, man. Either one of them could be champion at any moment and be totally legit.
I agree with you. Lots of love for Swerve Strickland. It's his house, and it's going to be his house for a very long time.
Absolutely. Big love to Swerve Strickland. Big love to Black History Month.
Yes,
and big
we love you guys.
To black wrestlers throughout history, who we will be talking about more next week.
Yes, Black Lives Matter.
Yes, they do. Black Lives Matter, baby. And with that, I'm Blade Daly.
I'm Muppet Moné. I think we forgot to mention something about Dynamite. And I'm a little bit devastated at the moment because we didn't mention that Muppet Moné was back. Sorry, Joshi G had to, I don't know what happened. She's not here right now. So
who is this?
This is Muppet Moné's best friend.
Oh. Is that so?
Atlanta, please say hello to your CEO.
Okay, I'm going to run for my life. I'm Blade Daly.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm back. I'm Joshi G.
Pro wrestling forever. Hey, Joshi?
Yes.
Can I talk to Joshi J?
He's kind of busy right now. What's this about?
It's pretty important that I talk to him right now.
All right, 1 minute. Let me see if he's available. One second.
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. What's up?
So your wife thinks that she's Muppet Moné, and I'm starting to get a little worried. She's disassociating in the middle of the podcast. Are you aware of this?
Yeah, no, I've completely given up on it. She's too far down the rabbit hole, but she'll tire herself out down there eventually, I think. And I just hope it's sooner than later. But at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if it goes on for about the next month or so. So yeah, I'm just letting her roll with it for the time being.
Is that how multiple personality disorder works? They just get tired of it?
It could be.